Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts, and in studio with me today is a phenomenal woman that I've actually had the pleasure of knowing for well over 40 years. We actually attended elementary school together back in Chicago, and it's been a mighty long time since I've had a chance to connect with her. So it's a pleasure to be able to reconnect with her again. And, she is a mom, a grandmother, a life coach, but most importantly, she's a woman of God, and she's taken time out of her very busy schedule to hang out with us a little while, to share a little bit of her journey, a little bit of her story, with the hopes of inspiring and encouraging and uplifting others, particularly as it comes to dealing with our adversities and challenges of life. So it is my privilege, ladies and gentlemen, to introduce to you my longtime classmate and friend, Miss Tarita James. Tarita, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you for having me, Joseph.
Absolutely, absolutely. So before we jump into our segments, I do want you to have an opportunity to share a little bit about yourself with the audience, kind of give them a little snippet about who you are, where you're from, what you do, kind of give them a taste of who is Tarita James.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. First of all, my name is Tarita James. I grew up in Robert Taylor Projects, and as Joseph said earlier, we attended BC Academic Center. Um, I predominantly grew up on the low end. Due to my childhood, I moved around a lot in the city of Chicago. I lived in the suburbs. I lived on the east side. I lived in the hundreds, but predominantly I'm from the low end. Today, I am a life coach, a certified life coach. I just want to give back, and I believe that experience is the best teacher. And if there was a degree for experience, I'm a doctor in it. Um, I've been through a lot, I've learned a lot, and I'm excited about sharing my journey with anybody that's willing to listen that needs help.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I don't believe that God has led you down this path to be a life coach and to put your experiences out there to work. There's always a reason for those things to be pieced together, which is kind of as lead into actually what we're getting ready to talk about here, because I want to take a moment, an opportunity for us to reflect back on where your journey begins. Because as I share with all of my guests, I'm a firm believer that a lot of where we are in life, our purpose, our whole meaning about life, it stems back from those earlier days. Things that have happened, things that have gone on, the people that we've met. We may not necessarily know back then why it's happening, the way it's going down, or whatever. But as you begin over time living life and doing life, it begins to piece itself together. So, if you would kind of take us back to those childhood days and share with us what was it like for you growing up, fond memories that you have about growing up, as well as if there's any particular challenges that you'd like to share. You can do that as well. Just kind of give us the foundational basis of where your story begins.
Um, my childhood is kind of hit or miss, and what I mean by that, there are a lot of years that I don't recall, due to, I guess, for me blocking certain things out. But we started. I have three sisters and three brothers. We were all raised by my grandmother. Um, we all have different fathers. The eldest three. I'm sorry, the eldest has her own father. The three after her have their father. I have a father, whomever that may be, and my two little brothers under me have a father that none of us know. No. My mother was a drug addict as well as a prostitute as we were growing up. Um, she would pop in and out sometimes, to come to my grandmother's wherever we lived at. We used to live on 70th and Damon, and those memories that I have over there were like party times. Like my oldest siblings used to go next door to this family. They had a huge family too, and they used to play music all the time, play cards and stuff. And they would pay me and my younger cousin quarters to sing songs. So to this day, I am a music kid, and I know like so many different songs just from my childhood memories. But on top of that, there was always jealousy, and I never understood that as a child. My sisters used to get jumped on. Everybody used to talk about us, and they didn't even know our struggle. Like we slept in the same room. I used to have to wear their clothes. My grandmother was raising us on welfare. Um, my grandmother started dealing with a guy that used to live a house down from us at that time. And long story short, he tricked her out of her house. This is how we ended up moving to the Robert Taylor Projects, 5135 South Federal to be exact. That's when I believe my life changed drastically. I think I was either 9 or 10 years old when we moved down there. Um, and unfortunately, my first experience from being in the projects, when we first went down, I was like, oh, we got a playground right outside. All we got to do is go outside. My three older sisters, they was like, we are not living here. And they never lived in the projects with us. They both went away to college. And I was really sad about that. And my sister that's above me, she stayed for maybe a year or two. And then she moved out. So at that point, and I do have a older brother, but it was just different for us. I just started like taking over things, taking care of things, trying to help my grandmother out. And remember, I'm only a little girl at this time, taking on adult responsibilities. Um, I was going up the elevator. We lived on the 14th floor, and the moving truck was leaving, and they put the remainder of the items on the elevator. My grandmother said, I'm going to go up first, then you take the last load up, and I'll meet you upstairs. I have your brothers upstairs with me already. So I'm like, okay. I get on the elevator. There are three other ladies on the elevator. Um, Remember, I'm new. This is my first day. We get on the elevator, and next thing I hear a jerk. And I'm like, what's happening? And they was like, the elevator stuck. I'm like, now I didn't know what claustrophobic meant back then,
Mm-hmm.
but I just started feeling something that I had never felt before. I started sweating, feeling like I had to throw up and things like that. So I'm like, what's happening? I'm hyperventilating, and they're laughing. So I look at the elevator buttons, and it's this big red button that says emergency. So I just push it real fast, thinking the door's gonna magically open up or whatever. That just caused the fire department and the police that I later learned. So, long story short, next thing I know, I don't know how long it took, but it felt like forever. They pried the doors open, they being the firefighters, and they was like, hey babies, I'm gonna explain to you what you have to do. We're gonna jump, we're gonna have you jump. When I count to 10, just jump in my arms. And I'm like, I'm scared of heights. I'm scared. I'm scared. So he was like, one of you young ladies can go first. So one of the ladies, one of the girls, because we were little girls, she jumped into his arms. So he was like, you. Now my hair was very, very, very long when I was little. And he was like, hey, you, come on. I know you could do this. I see you scared. Close your eyes and just count to 10 and jump into my arms. So I'm like, okay. I closed my eyes. I didn't get to 10. One of them pushed me, and the firefighter, I seen my whole life flash in front of my face. All I could see was the bottom of the floor. We were stuck between the 11th and the 12th floor. One of them pushed me, and he grabbed me by my little ankle, and I was dangling. And then he snatched me, and he kind of, however he threw me back up there, he threw me back up there. That was my first fight. I got up and I started swinging on everybody. Then the
Mm.
firefighters came at some point or whatever. So that's how my trauma started, and that's how my anger, my fighting. I got into a gang after that, which was Gangster Disciples (GD). Um, Felt like, you know that was my protection, and I got to protect me and my little brothers. And by
Mm-hmm.
me being so light skinned, living down there, it was all the little remarks that used to be made. We used to walk down. They called it the fire lane, and they would say, "Hey, white girl, you in the wrong neighborhood." And here I go arguing back. Can't even see who I'm talking to. I dare you to come downstairs, blah, blah, blah. And one day I was walking to the store. This is a different incident. Probably a week later after we moved in. I'm walking to the store, minding my business. Got a list my grandmother gave me. I'm mad because I had to use food stamps. And she told me I had to buy a pack of now ladies for 10 cents and get the 90-cent change so I could get a super transfer so we could go to
Mm-hmm.
church the next day. If everybody remembers super transfers.
Yes.
So I walk into the store, and it's people on the swings. Next thing I know, a swing comes across my face, and I just feel a real sting on my face, and I touched it and I'm bleeding. So everybody just started laughing. Ooh. So she's supposed to have been the toughest girl. Come to find out, she used to wear a scarf on her head all the time. I can't remember her name. She resided in 5100, which is next to the building I lived in. And when I get angry like that, I notice like I black out. All I can see is my target. And I looked around, I wiped my face, and it was still bleeding. And I just started stealing on her and fighting her. And I don't know how I did it or what I did because she was bigger than me. And I snatched the scarf off her head, and she was bald head. She had cancer. So nobody knew that because she was a bully and she used to mess with
Mm.
everybody. So when that fight happened, people started noticing like, oh, this little girl, that little light skinned little girl, stuff like that. But it wasn't all bad in the project, so I don't want to paint that picture. We had some good times. We would call it check day. Everybody used to get a check on the first or the third.
Mhm.
Those were the happiest times every month in the projects. Everybody would be cooking or barbecuing, playing cards, playing music. Once again, that's how I know so many different varieties of music. And we would just have fun on those days. But after those 3 to 5 days passed by, it was right back to the norm. Everybody was broke. Everybody was angry. Everybody was trying to figure out what was the next hustle, how we were going to make it. So
Wow.
those are a lot of my childhood memories. And I went to Farron first.
Mhm.
And then I took the test and I started going to Beasley. When I started going to Beasley, another shift happened in my life. And it was because they were bused to school or dropped off by their parents. They had lunch boxes and things like that. We had to eat the school lunch. We walked home every day from school. So they started labeling us as the project kids. Now, remember, I'm labeled as, hey, white girl, you're in the wrong neighborhood. Now I'm labeled as the project kids. Then
Mhm.
people would talk because I'm borrowing my friend clothes, who she and I are still friends to this day. Her parents were very well off, so she would like let me borrow her clothes and her purses and stuff like that. And come to find out, people started talking. So that took me to a different level in my anger because
Mm.
I always felt like excuse me, I always felt like I had to defend myself, explain myself. And then I'm trying to fit in with all these rich people. And when I'm going home across the street, all I'm seeing is broken glass, dope fiends, alcoholics, drug dealers, and people telling me, oh, you ain't gonna never be nothing. You ugly, you this, you that, you're poor. And all of that just started resonating with me. And I started believing it and I started living it, which takes me to the next point in my life being a teenager. I went to Curie. And how I ended up going way over there to that school, waited till the last minute, couldn't get in any other schools. I wanted to go to the school that my friend went to. She was going to Whitney Young. I wanted to go to Whitney Young so bad. I wasn't able to get in. My grandmother didn't have the money to pay for me to take the test.
Mm.
Um, so she knew somebody at the church that worked at Curie. That's how I got in Curie. And I was so angry about that. I'm like, I don't want to go way over here. I want to go here where the smart people go and things like that. But when I look back, I love the fact that I went there. I started meeting different nationalities. That school is
Mhm.
mixed with so many different people and so many different things. And that's when I started to learn me. Even though I was still in the gang, I used to cut. Oh my God, I used to cut school every day. I would not go in school unless I smoked some weed. That was everybody knew that was my MO. She gonna smoke some weed and she gonna have a green now later in her mouth. That was my way. I thought of just coping with life was just to stay high.
Wow. Wow. Let me start off by saying, I appreciate your transparency, your vulnerability, and sharing. For those who might be tuning in to our episode that are not from Chicago, specifically the South Side, I totally relate to all of that in terms of you describing the background and the setting. Although I didn't grow up in the projects myself, I do understand, what that scene looked like, and like you said, it was definitely some challenging times when you think about, Robert Taylor, of course, doesn't exist anymore, but when it had these big high rises and all of the violence and the drugs and everything that else was going on. I can only imagine how difficult that might have been as a young child trying to embrace all of that and function, and then to go to, ultimately to be at the school that we ended up being at. As you said, it was, and I want my listeners to understand, when she talks about transferring to Beasley, Beasley was a new phenomenon back then. That was a magnet school. That was kind of a new thing back then. And so, as she stated, you had to be tested to get into this school. It was almost like the public school version of a private school. And so, even when you think about busing, I always, whenever I tell people about that, it was almost like a reverse situation even to busing, because usually you bus black kids to white schools, and now you actually had some white kids being bused into this what was otherwise a predominantly black school, and you were going to school with some kids who came from some well-to-do families. Not everybody, but some who came. And then again, if you grew up in like in circumstances like you did, somebody might appear to be wealthy and such, because in your mind you're thinking, well, hey, if they're able to have things like as simple as a lunchbox to bring to school, or maybe the car that they get dropped off in, or the fact that they're able to catch the school bus home, or have somebody pick them up versus having to walk home, all of those things matter. But through it all, and just even just to know you personally, just with you sharing what you shared, I would have never pictured that about you just in interactions through school, because, whether you realize it or not, you did a great job of covering that up in terms of what you were, experiencing outside of the walls of the school, which, a lot of kids who are in situations like this, unfortunately, that's their defense. That's at least that's part of that defense. Like you said, I got on one end, I'm being, made fun of because of the color of my skin amongst people who are actually a part of my heritage. But then on the other end, they're targeting the fact that I don't have money, or that I'm the project kid. So you're demeaning me in what is otherwise already a stressful environment as it is. So I got to deal with that at home and deal with it at school. It kind of you kind of get to that enough is enough kind of moment, if you will. So totally understandable about that anger that's building up inside of you. But nevertheless, as I shared with you at the top of the show, is I don't believe that, in spite of how difficult and how challenging that was, God allows these storms to happen for a reason. And it's never to destroy us. It's never to take us out. It's all in building us up in such a way to where, even though we don't see it back then in those younger years, what lies ahead, your purpose in life, and what he has set forth for you to do. Sometimes we have to go through some things, and it's not even about us personally. It's about equipping us to be able to be of service to people that he's already positioning later on in life for you to be able to come alongside of. So I applaud you for your strength and your resiliency, even during those younger years with all the odds that are against you, and for you to be able to even still be here right now, speaking as you are and sharing so authentically and genuinely. And again, your transparency is going to be a blessing. It's already blessing, whether you realize it or not. So again, appreciate your transparency in that. So, Tarita, I want to kind of build on this a little bit more, and just in the fact that, as you're aware, you've shared some things already that were challenging in your childhood coming up, and as we get older, more life experiences come our way. Some are minor in nature, and some are very heavy, very intense. And with that said, every now and then we face some challenges that, when they come our way, it's like, how am I going to get out of this? You already were going through some difficult things, and we're managing to navigate through somehow. But every now and then we get hit with that thing, that situation where we're like, I don't know what I'm gonna do with this. I can't throw no money at this. I can't pick up the phone and make a call to get some help on this. I'm stuck. I don't see a way out. So if you would share with us a time where you felt just like that I'm facing a situation that I didn't see a way out. I didn't know how I was going to overcome it, what I was going to do. Thank God you're here today to, again, to be able to share the story. But maybe back then you didn't see how it was going to all work out. If you would kind of walk us through what that situation was like for you, and what was ultimately the turning point where you kind of saw some light at the end of the tunnel and coming up out of it.
Um, so I've had several major experiences in my life, but this one in particular, um, I was in my 20s. I had two sons, half two sons. They were 2 and 6 then, and I have a bonus daughter who, when I met my kid's father, he had a daughter that was 6 months old. And I was 17 at the time when that happened, and I raised her up until this situation occurred. Um, so growing up in the projects and growing up in poverty, just period, my goal always was I would never let my kids go through what I went through. They're gonna have everything they want. Now you got to remember, parenting doesn't come with a book. So I want the best life for my kids. I meet my kid's father straight out of high school. I had just graduated. He was a big drug dealer back then. Um, and in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, God, answer my prayers. I finally got some help. Um, I'm living in the Rosenwalds on 47th and Michigan and Wabash in Indiana at that time. And I'm living with someone that was older than me. And I'm figuring I'm escaping the project life. Hey, but the Rosenwalds was just a smaller version of the projects. It just wasn't tall buildings. However, I went through some experiences down there as well. And I ended up meeting him. And when I met him, I'm going to speed it up. He ended up moving me out of there, got a building on 117th in Indiana, and I only had one son then. And that's when life went to a different level. I was going through physical abuse, emotional abuse, um, and I would always go back because he would buy me back. And I
Mm.
shared everything with him, all my fears, all my concerns, things that I wanted to happen for me in the future. Like I used to tell him everything because I felt like I could trust him. Um, and he was younger too, so I don't fault him today because of what happened. He was just doing the best that he thought he knew how to do, was trying to make me happy. But what I learned was you can't you can't buy somebody out of anger, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And I had to figure out, why was I so angry all the time. So I'll speed it up a little bit. We bought a house, Calumet City, um, and we moved out there. I'm in school to get my degree, my associate's degree. I'm working at a school. I'm a teacher's assistant. The principal was watching me, and she told me, she came and asked me to come into her office one day, and she said, Tarita, I've been watching you for months now, and I know that the teacher does not teach the class. You've been teaching the class. And I was like, I tried to cover up and lie for the teacher because she was really good to me. And she was like, no, I've seen it already. You don't have to say anything. That's not why I'm here. I will take care of that. But what I want to say to you, I see in you what you don't see in yourself. So I want to make a deal with you. You finish school, get your associates. I'm going to give you your own classroom. But in the interim, you go back and you get your bachelor's. And I was like, okay, cool. So I go back to school. Everything is going well. Everything is going well. I'm thinking. One thing about when you grow up the way that I grew up, your mind is always on the next dollar, the next lick. What can I do to make life better for my kids? Um, I am a very helpful person. Anybody that knows me, I will literally give you the shirt off my back with no questions asked. So this was a person that I thought I was trying to help. And they came to me with a proposition one day. Hey, I'm going to be moving. They were living with us at the time. Hey, I'm going to be moving to a different state. You know, my credit messed up, my name messed up. Um, we'll pay you if you get a house and a car in your name for me. And once I establish my credit, you know, I get it out your name and put it in my name. I ain't even asked no questions. I was like, how much? That was my only question. How much? And then she told me the amount, and I was like, okay. We ended up going to Texas for one weekend. One weekend. And while we're down there, I get the house in my name. I get the car in my name. Everything is done. I finished that in one day. Because if you remember earlier, I learned how to handle business from my grandmother, taking care of her business.
Mhm.
So once we do all of that, and before we left Chicago, me and my kid's father had one of the worst fights ever. It was bad. I um I told myself I'm never going back. I'm never going back. I took all of my stuff out, all my kids' stuff out. I'm moving into one of my coworkers' house. And I asked her, could she watch my kids just for the weekend and I'll be right back. So the money that I was gonna make going to Texas to do this was the money I was gonna use to get me and my kids a new place to live. I never came back home from the weekend. Coming back home to Chicago, The police pulled us over. She was driving, um, and she had drugs in the car, which I had no knowledge of. I
Mm.
was going to do two things: get a house in my name and a car in my name. They made us get out the car. Now, remember, the car in my name because she don't have credit or anything. So you're the owner of this car. Always rented, but I don't have nothing to hide. This is what I'm saying to myself. He was like, "Well, do you mind if I search the car?" And I'm like, "Sure." In my mind, I'm just replaying. Oh, all I got is a box of blunts in my purse and a knife. I always carried a knife. Can you step out the car, please? Sure. Remember, my attitude real nasty back then. What the F you want? Why you making me get out the car? Blah, blah, blah. So I get out the car. My life went to a different level within seconds. They started pulling out suitcase after suitcase after suitcase full of cocaine, keys of cocaine.
Mm.
They slammed me up before they slammed me up against the car. She was on the other side, and I tried to dab across the car to get her, and they body slammed me. Speeded up. I ended up getting 2 life sentences in the state of Texas. What was supposed to be a weekend and a new beginning of my life turned into hell on earth. Um, I ended up serving 7 years, and I came home. I won my appeal. During those times, which was the darkest times of my life, I remember when they first put me in the cell. Literally, I don't know if anybody ever experienced this before. It literally felt like the walls was coming to me, like about to close in on me. And from being a little girl, I used to be so mad at my grandmother. She would make us go to church. We used to be in church all the time. And I used to be so mad at her. And when the walls got right here, I started saying the whole 27 Psalms. The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? As I'm saying the scripture, the walls start going like this.
Hmm.
And like a light just popped on, literally, because it was dark in there, dirty, cold. A light just popped on, and I just slid down the dirty wall, and I just was holding myself like this. And I can hear people always say they can hear God. I had never experienced that was my first experience. And God speaks through nature, people,
Mm-hmm.
music, through his word, through different speakers. I heard him say, "You're not gonna do the time that they said you're gonna do, but you gotta sit for a little minute. I gotta protect you." And I'm like, protect me? Come to find out a couple of years later into my sentence, now I'm shipped off to prison. I'm at the maximum security prison in Texas, the largest women's prison in the world. I'm in there with all type of killers, all type of people. People from killing their babies, people putting their babies in the oven, people killing their parents, cutting their heads off, switching them on bodies. Like, what is happening here? In that moment, God said, "You're either going to do the time or the time is going to do you. What is your choice?"
Mm.
So I didn't know how I was going to come home, but I knew I'm not going to die here. This is not where I'm finna be living at. I ain't went through everything I went through for my ending to be like this. People would call me crazy. I started working out. I jog around the rec yard or whatever. They started calling me church girl, which who would have ever thought me being a church girl? I started directing a choir. I started teaching Bible studies. I was known as the encourager. My name was Chicago in prison. Um, Saying that to say, you never know what life is preparing you for. I used to listen to this song by Tupac all the time, and in this one part, he say, "Who would thought back in elementary that I would see the penitentiary?"
Mm-hmm.
Huh? Like you were thinking, what was gonna happen to me? And now, in there, I finally understood why I had to grow up the way that I had to grow up. Because if I didn't grow up the way that I grew up, I wouldn't have survived in there. I'm not saying I'm the toughest person, because it was some, like I said, there was some stone cold killers in there. And it was a lot of women that thought they were men in there. They used to take steroids and be buff and work out and all type of stuff, had mustaches and beards and everything. Even if I was scared, you would never know. My motto was, if you hit me, you better kill me because I'm going to come back and get you. So I was never approached in there. Only one time was I approached in there, and I didn't even have to lay a finger. All my friends jumped on the girl. But
Hmm.
that was one of the most pivotal moments of my life. I didn't know how I was gonna make it, how I was gonna get out, but I knew my faith in God that my grandmother had instilled in me, not knowing what she was doing at the time, planting the seed. That's literally what kept me. Now, don't get it twisted. There was a lot of dark days, a lot of dark years in there, a lot. I wouldn't talk sometimes. I started getting mail on top of already what I'm going through from my kid's father with these different women he was with. They would write me, they would take pictures in my house with my clothes on, with my kids. Um, this was all in one day. I want to share this one day with you real quick. I'm in prison. They do mail call. I get 3 letters. The first letter was about my bonus daughter. Um, she went through a moment when she didn't want to be here anymore because all she know is us, and the next thing she know, life is snatched from under her. She's a little girl. The chaplain let me go out and make a phone call and talk to her, so I was able to talk to her and tell her everything was okay. In the middle of that, I'm finding out that my child's father, who I'm thinking I'm going to be with forever, has another child by somebody else. And then I'm getting all these other letters about these women and stuff. So then I get a letter that my little brother got caught by the feds and got a lot of time. I'm like, what is going on, God? Then I open the last envelope, and it's a letter from the appeals court telling me that I lost my appeal. I thought life was over for me. Like the cell doors just popped open. That doesn't happen in there. It's called an in and an out. Every 45 minutes, the officers from the pit, they pop the doors open. You have a choice if you want to go in your cell or if you want to come out. They just did it in and out when they did mail call. I knew that wasn't nothing but God. When the doors popped open, all I could do was crawl out. And one of my good friends was right there, and she told me I passed out in her arms. And I remember when they were slapping me and pouring water on me, when I came back to, I was mute for 2 weeks. I didn't talk to nobody. I didn't comb my hair. All I did was go to work, and you work for free in the state of Texas. You don't get paid. And during this time, I'm in my right mind, even though the enemy was trying to take my mind and trying to trip me up.
Hmm.
I went, I asked, could I go to the law library? You have to get a pass for that. I went to the law library. This is my first time going there, and I started reading. And there was a couple of other, they call them old heads. They've been in there for 20 years and stuff already. And I asked them a few questions. And one lady said, I just started crying, like crying so hard. And she said, baby, why you crying? I said, I lost my appeal. I lost my appeal. She was like, you know, you get 2 more chances. And I said, for real? So my my attorney came to see me after that, and that's what gave me hope. And God, I had to remember what God told me, and I had to remember all the things I learned as a child, the scriptures, the songs,
Hmm.
just everything. That's literally what kept me. I can't explain it no other way. The only reason I'm home is God. I knew people that worked at the news stations back then. They couldn't even help me. My whole family, my circles, my different circles of support, they were writing letters. God said nobody would ever get the glory for this. Nobody would ever
Hmm.
be able to say I did this but me. So to answer your original question, that's how I made it through one of the lowest points of my life. And that's how I'm able to sit here today and tell one of my stories.
Wow. Wow. Again, Tarita, your transparency is beyond powerful. I'm at a loss for words at this moment, just trying to imagine what that was like. And then you said you got these were life sentences for drug related,
Two,
2 life
two.
sentences. I
asked
mean,
the when
like,
they
how do you?
sentenced me, I fainted. And what woke me up, the officer was kicking me in my head with a steel toe boot. Get up, nigga. Get up, nigga. Nobody
Mm,
could see this because the whole courtroom is up in disarray. My mother was there at the time, one of my sisters, and my cousin. And when they pulled me up off the floor, all I said was, "What am I gonna die and come back and do another life sentence?"
right. Just wow. And all for drugs that you. This wasn't even your stuff. You just riding, like you said, you just riding in the car. Wow. Wow. Um, again, your transparency is powerful, but just kind of as again, I'm going back to where we started off our conversation. We just never know the even the littlest of things that are imparted in us growing up. Like you said, your grandmother's influence on you, and then just the craziness of the environment. Yes, it was rough, it was tough, it was difficult, it was tragic in a lot of ways, but in its own way, it prepared you, like you said, for something that you didn't see coming. You didn't know how this was going to play out, and now you are locked up, maximum security prison around people who have done horrific crimes, and being able to survive. But again, as you said, that's how God works, in the sense that, when He does come through, He wants to come through. When we learn to lean on Him and depend upon Him, He wants to come through in a way where it leaves no doubt on the table who was responsible for making this happen. And one of the things that stood out to me in your story is you mentioned you ended up serving 7 years. So in my mind, and you may be already familiar with this, but when we think about biblically speaking, the number seven representing, completion,
Completion.
and it's like, and you being spoken to by God, where you're saying, you have to sit here for me to protect you. This is a protection period. It's like God was purging some things out of the way, moving some people out of the way, shifting some circumstances for you, so that when that opportunity did finally arrive for this appeal to be granted to you, you're able to step up out of that situation, and enter into a path that's been prepared for you. And I guess, you think about with the Bible, the plans I have for you. He has some plans for you, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure if you would have scripted it, you wouldn't have scripted it doing it like this. None of us would. We wouldn't have said, "Oh, let me go to jail for something I didn't do. Let me get abused. Let me grow up in poverty." We wouldn't have said that. But as we know that the word says, God's ways are not our ways. His thoughts are not our thoughts. It doesn't always make sense to us. But if He makes sense to you, then you don't question it. Once you understand that He makes sense to you, then it doesn't matter how weird, strange, odd, whatever you want to call that looks like it is. I know He's not going to do wrong by me. I know in the end, He's going to take care of me, that I'm going to be all right. And so I'm thankful for you, as I know you probably thank God each and every day for the fact that He kept you and He held you. And when it felt like those walls were closing in, He was there to make sure that it didn't get to the point where, again, that it squeezed the life out of you, that it took you out. Because you had every reason in the world to just feel defeated, and just, if nothing more, just to end it all. But I'm thankful that you didn't go to that point, and God made sure that you didn't go to that point. He wasn't going to allow you to go to that point. He had been with you all along, by your side throughout. So, um, definitely powerful, what you've shared already. I'm being blessed. My listeners are being blessed. I'm so appreciative of you sharing as you have. I mean, this is amazing, for you to go through what you go through, and then to be the woman that you are today. A survivor, a thriver,
Yes.
through all of this. So, I mean, that's God is good. God is good.
All the
So,
time.
so, so Tarita, you've shared some very heavy stuff. But again, sometimes life is heavy like that. Sometimes it's just day to day normal nuances, if you will, that we have to deal with. But nevertheless, what I'm interested in knowing from you is, when you do find yourself facing adversity and challenging times, regardless of the level of intensity that it has to it or whatever, what is it that you like to do that kind of works best for you when you're trying to process dealing with difficult times or challenging moments?
Interesting. I'm going through some very, very trying times right now, just on a different level.
Hmm.
Been in this space for the last 3 years. And what gets me through when I feel like I can't take it anymore, I have to think back on that situation. First of
Mm,
all, it's the scripture that says we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of our testimony. And what that means is, when we go through things, It's so that we can have a track record of God to know, hey, you brought me through that. Surely you could bring me through this. Because in people's eyes, that was impossible. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in my eyes, like, God, how you gonna do this? And that's literally how I feel about the situation I'm in now. Like, I don't see a way out. I can't figure anything out. Like, I literally need another miracle. And he did it before, and I know he gonna do it again. So that's one avenue of encouragement for me. And also, I love music. I have to surround myself with worship music, praise music to keep me rooted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I go to church every Sunday. Um, I have a great support system in my different circles of my life. Um, Basically, it's just the word of God that keeps me. And a lot of times, like I'm a nature person. I don't care about hot, cold, snow, sleet, hail. I'm gonna go outside. And I find peace in just going outside and being able to just breathe the fresh air, see the trees, see the snow, or whatever it may be. And I love water. A few people made comments like, she loved outside because she was locked up. No, boo. I always been an outside person. That just enhanced it
Mm-hmm.
because I could open the door whenever I want to open the door. I can eat when I want to eat. In prison, you are a number. You're not a name. It's like you're a robot. We wear the same uniforms every day. We eat the same food almost every day. We go to the same jobs every day. 1002736. That was my name in there. That was my number. And I still remember it to this day. But that's what gets me through some of the darkest times. And I know we're living in a different time now, even though the Bible says there's nothing new under the sun. But we going through some different type of stuff right now. Life is lifing. But at the end of the day, God is guiding.
Mm.
So you have to have a relationship with God. If you do not, you are not going to survive. And I just want to explain real quickly the difference in knowing God and having a relationship. I knew God when my situation happened, but being in there is when I obtained a relationship with him. Oh, he know my name and I know his name. And I studied different things because the Bible says study to show yourself approved. I'm not perfect. No, I'm not. But I feel like in this time, God is about to use the radicals like me. I am the church. The church is within us. And I used to be embarrassed to share my life, but I have learned that vulnerability is a gift. And
Yes.
God said my life is an open book. So some people gonna have some comments to say about this, but I don't care no more. I used to care what people say, and I became a life coach in the pandemic. I lost my job that I was at for 10 years, and I felt like that was the end of the world. And God said, I'm taking you on a different path.
Hmm.
You're not gonna understand right now, but you will understand your purpose sooner than later. And that's when I became a life coach. And the teacher asked me, what's your niche? And I was like, I honestly don't know. And God said self-esteem. I laughed out loud. Self-esteem? The person that struggled with self-esteem all her life? But you want that to be my niche? You see how he worked though?
Yeah. Yeah.
I used to walk with my head down all the time because I felt like I was ugly. I'm being real with y'all. I used to feel like I was fat when I wasn't even big. Like, it's all in your head. It's all what you listen to. It's all who you are around. You have to feed yourself with the word of God and with positivity. You got to know that you are more than enough. You got to know that you are beautiful, that you are the apple of God's eye, that you are fearfully and wonderfully made. It's
Yes.
not about looks, it's about what's in here and what's in here. I used to think I was stupid. When I went back to school in my 40s and obtained my bachelor's degree, I graduated summa, I forgot the correct way how to pronounce it,
Summa cum laude.
that,
Yes.
summa claude. I'm standing in the graduation line and they didn't have my name. And when I got to the front, here I am thinking negative again, like something always happened to me. Ugh. So another lady came from another line. She said, "Excuse me, what's your name?" I said, "Tarita James." She said, "Sweetie, we've been waiting on you. You're in the wrong line." I said, "Okay, just show me where to go." She said, "Wait a minute. You really don't understand what's happening, do you?" She put that robe on me. She put that medal on me. And
Hmm.
she showed me my GPA. I said, "Oh." So once
Love it.
again,
Love it.
God's plans are always better than ours.
Wow.
And he
Wow.
ain't even finished with me yet.
No, no, he's just getting started. In fact, he's just getting started. But that is that is awesome. And like I said, it's just even as you're sharing, and I know you're being truthful and everything. It's like when you talk about the self esteem and like I didn't think I was pretty, and I'm like, please again, listeners, I've known her since we were kids. I mean, she was attractive as a kid. I mean, so the idea of you thinking like I'm unattractive, and she's attractive now, and it's like even with all the stuff that she's been through, so it's even hard for me to fathom, having known you, you know, encountered you back then, and thinking that that's how you really thought of yourself back then. Like, wow, so that just it drives home the importance of us being mindful of our self-esteem and how we feel about ourselves. Not so much all about the external, but what do we think about ourselves on the inside, that I'm worthy, that I have value, that I have significance, that I matter, that I have purpose. I mean, because these type of things will come out. They will pour up out of us when we don't think like that. And we'll find ourselves, as you said, keeping our head hanging low, thinking that you're less than or not worthy or not desirable or whatever. And then even to you being surprised about, when it came time for you to graduate and get your degree, like I didn't even think I was smart. I shared earlier in the show, for those of you who don't know, the school that we went to, you had to be smart to go there. And it didn't have anything to do with whether you came from a wealthy background or whether you grew up in Robert Taylor homes. You had to be smart to go there. Everybody that was in that school was smart, regardless of what their financial background was. So it's like, you've always been smart. You've always been beautiful. You've always had these gifts inside. But like you said, I didn't know it. And part of that relationship that you spoke of, which I'm glad that you leaned on that, is that it's one thing to know God. It's one thing, however, it's a whole completely different thing for you to be in relationship with him, because he reminds you, of who you belong to. And he reminds you of the treasure that you are. He reminds you of the greatness that is in you. So if you didn't know that relationship with God, he gonna make sure that by the time we done, you gonna know, you gonna think you all that and then some. And it's not gonna be in a cocky and arrogant kind of way, but it's just gonna be understanding the royalty that comes with your being inside and out. Yeah. You are royalty. That's what being a child of God gives us. That's the benefit. That's one of many benefits, I should say, is that you are of royalty, of a royal line. And it doesn't matter the challenges or the things that you've gone through to get to this point. It's in you, and he placed it in you from the moment you were conceived into life. So I'm glad that you had that. Again, I would have loved for, as I'm sure you would have, for it to have been under different circumstances. But in the end, if this is what it took for him to shake my world, to rattle things up in such a way where he had to basically isolate you, so it was just you and him.
Woo.
I had to isolate you, and this was the only way I could isolate you. This
Mm,
was the only way that I could create a quiet space where you ain't
mm,
had nobody to talk to but me.
mm.
And look what it has done. Look what it has brought up out of you. And as you said, as you were sharing, what things do you like to do to deal with difficult times? It's like I can lean on those track records of testimonies of how he did it the last time, and the time before that, and the time before that, and the time before that. That's powerful. And you just when I feel like I want to give up this time around because something new that's difficult in my life, but okay, what about all those other times? In fact, and I've said this even to about myself, like if I sat here all day trying to think of one time that God let me down, I can't name one. Now I can think of many times that I let me down, or somebody or man or woman let me down, but not God. So when you know who you belong to and who you're in relationship with, it changes the whole dynamic. It changes the whole way you process and how you think about tragedies and challenging moments and trauma in life. Because now you no longer see them as just negative events. You see them as opportunities for God to bless. Whether it's a blessing to equip you personally, to benefit you personally, or whether it's a blessing that He's building you up to be a blessing to somebody else. When I think about that aspect of it, then I see life coach she is. Life coach. He's equipping you through your experience so you can be a blessing to the masses, the people that he's gonna have cross your path that you can pour into. So that's beautiful. That is beautiful. What a powerful testimony that you have, Tarita.
Thank
And
you.
I'm so glad that you are at a place now where it doesn't even bother you to share anymore. That there's no more shame. That there's no more embarrassment. That there's no more. I wonder what people gonna say. What people gonna think. No, that's. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing now. This is what this is all about. Being transparent and being vulnerable and sharing. We're not looking for shock TV. It's not the reality mess that we see on, our cable streaming channels or anything like that. This is real stuff because we all go through it. We all go through stuff, whether we want to admit it or not. It may not be Tarita's story, but we got our own stuff. We got our own mess. We got our own things that we're dealing with. And some of it is locked inside that we've been fearful of letting out because we're so concerned about what everybody's gonna say, what they gonna think about it. So much appreciate your transparency along this way through this story. So Tarita, if you had the opportunity, when you think back on everything that you've been through, highs and lows, everything in between, if you could sit across the table from the younger Tarita, knowing what she was battling with, knowing what she was dealing with, or just the fact that there's somebody who's listening to this episode, it could be a young lady, it could be a young brother even, who they're in that trench right now. They're in that rut right now that you've been there and done that and you're here to testify about it. But they don't know. They're stuck. They're trying to see a way out. They're trying to figure out and find their way. What would be your words of encouragement to the younger Tarita or to anybody who's listening that's stuck in similar challenges and moments like you've been able to be delivered from? What would be your words of encouragement and advice to them?
Mm. First of all, I never even liked my name. I thought my name sounded too Hispanic. And I just started embracing my name, my complexion, my hair, my shape. I just started embracing all that like in the last 5 years. So to my younger self, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You were always beautiful. You were always more than enough.
Yes.
And I'm so sorry. But you know what? It's okay because everything we went through is made me into who I am today. So today I want to tell you I love you. You the bomb. I appreciate you. You're different for a reason. And I love you more than anything, little Tarita. And the best is yet to come. So to all the people, I know you can relate in some shape, form, or fashion, whether it was abuse, neglect, low self-esteem, poverty, whatever it may be, you got to dig deep inside yourself first of all and figure out the root where this came from.
Mm-hmm.
If God would have never sat me down in there, I would have never figured out where the root came from. And it started from not having parents. I just wanted to be like everybody else. I just wanted to be loved. And I was looking for it in all the wrong places. And a lot of y'all doing that today. That's why you accept the things that you accept. But you don't have to. That's why today I'm single. I'm single by choice because I don't have to take anything and anybody just to say I got a man. Yes, I'm in my 50s. Yes, I want to be married. Yes, I want to be happy. But I would rather wait than to settle because majority of my life, that's all I did was settle. So just be your genuine self. If people don't accept you, they are not the right people. And I want to say to the younger people, a real friend will never put you in a situation that would jeopardize your freedom. Don't ever forget that. Thank you so much, Joseph. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Thank you. Very well said. We got to be mindful of our circle. We got to be mindful of loving ourselves. And as you concluded, not settling, not taking low for anything or anybody. And again, back to that relationship with God. He don't want you to take low. And that's one of the benefits. One of the things I pray about every day is, and I thank God for, is for him, for the things that, for the people, places, and platforms that he blocks. Because sometimes we see on the exterior what looks good, what feels good, what seems like we want to be a part of that, but he can see behind those layers, and he can know when it's a situation or an individual that if I connect, that it's going to require me to take low. It's going to require me to settle. If I connect, it's going to require me to compromise my integrity, my character, my well-being. God doesn't want that for us. And I'm so glad that you have that realization now, and you do think that you the bomb, and you have every reason to think that you the bomb, and all of that, and then some. Every reason to do that. And that's not just something casual to say because it sounds good. It's just it's the real thing. That's the boldness that we can have when we in a primary relationship with Christ. We can say that. We can talk like that because again, as I shared earlier, you when you in a relationship with him, you are a part of a royal line. You are a part of a royal line. So you all you're doing is acting like royalty. It's supposed to be. So if you wanna look down on me, if you wanna criticize my past, if you wanna, make fun of it, mock it, whatever, do what you feel like you need to do because I know what my worth is. I know what my value is. I know who I belong to, and I know what he thinks of me. And as long as I got God, as long as I got him in my corner, nothing a man or woman says, nothing that's going on in the world matters. He's going to always be my protector. He's going to always be my provider. He's always going to be my comforter. He's going to be to me everything that I ever need. And he'll make sure he knows what I want. He knows even what I desire and what I need. And he's going to make those connections happen in their appropriate due moment in time. But it's just amazing how God moves and how he uses some of our most darkest moments in life to bring forth blessings. And again, those blessings that are specific for us and those blessings that he's instilling in us to pass on to other people. So, and that's just exactly what you've done today is you've been a blessing to this podcast, to my listening audience. And you're blessing and just a blessing to you, just to remind you once again that you all that and then some in God's eyes, and that's what it's all about. Knowing who you belong to and what your worth is and your value is. That speaks volumes right there, and I have no doubt that he's going to continue to use you in a mighty way in your life coaching as well as in other facets and forms that you may not even be made aware of just yet. He's like I said, he's just getting started, and the numeric age that we are doesn't even matter. Doesn't mean that it's too late or anything like that. It's never too late with him. It's never too late. And if there were some years that we lost, he can make up for all of that and get you right to where you needed to be and then some. So I'm excited for what he has in store for you and what he's going to be doing in your life. So I thank you so much, Tarita, for sharing as you have. But of course, before I let you go, I do want to, as is customary here on the Blessings in the Streets podcast, we want to take an opportunity to love on you, to acknowledge you, to celebrate you. So if you got anything exciting that's coming up, that's going on professionally and or profession or personally that you'd like to share that we need to know about, that we need to get connected with and find out how to experience or support or just simply lift up in prayer, tell me what we can look forward to. What's going on with Tarita coming up down the road or going on right now that we need to know about and celebrate?
Well, right now I'm just in the beginning stages of eventually starting my own podcast. Um, and then from that point, traveling in the world as a motivational speaker. So just be on the lookout for me. And I also have a cleaning service called Eliminator Services. I do
Mm-hmm.
cleaning and organization jobs, which spiritually, if you put that in the spirit realm, like in order for your soul and your mind to be clear, where you reside, it has to be clear.
Yes.
What you drive every day needs to be clean and clear. That all plays a part in your life, which goes back to the self esteem niche.
Mm-hmm.
Believe in yourself, and everything else will fall in place.
Love that. Love that. So for people who are in the area where you are, if they want to get in touch with you about your cleaning services that you have, or if they want to follow you as far as your life coaching services or motivational speaking, what's the best way for them to connect with you or keep up with what you're doing and be a part and support that?
I don't have a website just yet. However, I am on all social media platforms. I am on TikTok, I am on Facebook, and I am on Instagram, and I'm also on Snapchat. Life Coach She Is Boo. You can DM me, give me a message, and only serious inquiries, please. If you're serious about going to the next level in your life, please reach out to me. Because remember, experience is the best teacher.
There you go. There you go. So, listeners, you heard it right here. You know how to reach out to Tarita, to take advantage of any of her services or to be of support, or if nothing more, just keeping her in prayer because God is using her in a mighty way. She is walking in her purpose. I am very proud of what she's doing, and so glad that I was able to reconnect with her, and
Yes.
and what a wonderful way for us to do this. And I'm looking forward to that podcast when it is birthed. You definitely have a book in you, so I'm looking for. We're gonna speak that into existence.
Yes, my book, my book.
Yes, we gonna speak that to an
Yes,
existence because you got all of that. That's
yes.
it's out there. It's just a matter of you having that conversation with God and having Him lead you accordingly and making those things happen because you definitely have a story to tell. And I'm thankful that you felt comfortable to do so on this platform. But I look forward to you doing it on many more platforms and venues
Thank
to
you.
share, because it's definitely worth sharing. And again, it would be a blessing to a lot of people. So again, thank you so much. And to my listeners, if you've enjoyed the podcast today, you've enjoyed the stories that we've shared here, please subscribe, please share, please like, please comment. Because this is what the Blessings in the Streets podcast is all about. We want to inspire, we want to encourage, we want to uplift, being transparent, being vulnerable, being raw, opening it all up, laying it all out on the table. No sugarcoating, no nothing. Just letting you know that if you trust in God, I don't care what you're going through. I don't care what's going on in your life. I don't care what your beginning circumstances were, where it looked like
Yes.
all the odds were against you. In God, in that relationship with Him, anything is possible. Nothing is too big for
Mm,
Him. And if you don't currently have a relationship with God, and I know Tarita will testify to this as well, today is a mighty fine day to make that happen.
yes, it
And I
is.
promise you, it'll be the greatest decision that you ever make. He loves you unconditionally. He is a promise
Yes.
keeper, a way
Yes.
maker, a provider of all providers. He is just
Yes.
there for you in every way imaginable and then some. So we're not
Yes.
telling you something that we heard about. We're telling you something that we know. And
That
so,
part.
so with that said, remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is the place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, I want you to keep fighting that good fight. I want you to learn to love yourself. Love
Yes.
yourself. Understand your value. Understand your worth. But most importantly,
Yes.
depend upon God in every area of your life. Let Him be your guide. Let
Yes.
Him be your directions. Let Him be
Yes.
that source of inspiration, that wisdom channel for you to draw from. And I promise you, He will not lead you astray, and the blessings will be of abundance, not only for you personally, but again to equip you to be a blessing to the masses, for the advancement of His kingdom work. He loves
Yes.
you, and He wants that relationship with you. He craves it. Don't resist it. Don't fight it. Don't feel like you got to clean yourself up first before you take into it. Just embrace it, and watch Him run wild with it in ways, again, that will blow your mind. So until next
Yes.
time, you take care. I look forward to seeing you again. Have a great rest of your day.
Peace, everybody.